Okay, welcome back. We have a special guest, and if your garden needs some tender, loving care, we have the perfect person here to help us provide you with tips on how to cultivate that flourishing rose garden.
That's right. We're joined by Gracie Polson, co-founder of Santa Barbara-based Grace Rose Farm, and she just released her first book as well, titled Garden Roses: The Complete Guide to Growing and Arranging Spectacular Blooms. Gracie, thanks so much for waking up early and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So my first question is, tell us how your love for gardening began.
I started gardening as like a toddler. Essentially, my grandmother had a pretty large rose garden out in the San Gabriel Valley where roses bloom 10 months of the year, and I started about 2 years old just loving roses and all things gardening.
Wow, so it's basically in your blood and you like grew up doing that. That's incredible.
Yes.
That's cool. Now you have a new book out.
I do.
Tell us what it's about and kind of what motivated you or encouraged you to write the book.
So we've been rose farming for almost a decade, and the most popular question we always got through social media and email was like, what are my favorite rose varieties to grow? In case you're not familiar, there are thousands and thousands of rose varieties, not just pink rose, yellow rose, white rose. But so this book talks about my top 100 favorite varieties in every color across the palette. And then that's part one. And part two is how to grow them and how to be successful with them. Roses sort of have a reputation for being persnickety or difficult, but they're really not, especially in California. We have such a long growing season, and essentially roses here, plant them, water them, fertilize them, and forget them. They're really low maintenance, and they provide beautiful blooms practically the whole year. So
yeah,
that's what the book's about.
That's incredible. And I know you brought some roses here as well, and they are just beautiful. So I know you have more details in your book, but what are some tips you may have for beginners?
For beginners, I would say not to get lost in the details. And if you go to your local garden center, just essentially find a rose that you like by color. Like, people always have a specific color they like, whether it's yellow or white or red or pink, and plant the rose. Always hook roses up to fertilizer and to water. You don't ever want to have to use a hose to water your roses because you're going to forget mostly. Like, most people end up forgetting, and then the plant doesn't look so good. So hook up irrigation to the roses, feed them regularly, and they'll provide a great amount of blooms that you can bring into the home and enjoy. But they're really easy, and I hope more people are inspired to want to grow roses from my book.
Yeah.
And you did mention thousands of different varieties that you can pick from. How about your particular favorite? If you maybe you have more than one.
I have a lot of favorites. I tend to gravitate to the old world, this style here, the very cupped, classic old-fashioned looking rose. A lot of people don't think that those are roses. They think that they're peonies because they have that more fluffy ball shaped, but that is a rose. And I also gravitate to roses with a lot of fragrance, that old rose scent.
And what's your best-selling rose?
Our best-selling rose is probably a rose from France called Pink O'Hara, and it's a very large, it's actually right here on the cover of the book, but it's actually a very large, deeply fragrant, and the blooms are about this big when they're fully open.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Incredible. Well, we learned so much in such a short period of time. So we encourage you all to not only visit the garden, you can get a tour, but also to grab that book, especially if you want to get into gardening or you have some curiosity. So for a closer look at the beautiful roses, head to www.gracerosefarm.com. We'll have a link to Gracie's new book on our mobile app and website. Gracie, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
All right.